Huh. Okay, Docker Desktop is no longer free. That's interesting. Um, Tor is a great sysadmin tool. You serious? All right. Let's see. Let's have fun with this. Let's see. Build Zoom remote project for construction is hiring. Don't care. Apple and Google must allow other payment systems. Okay, that one's actually pretty interesting. So the way like a lot of these payment systems work is actually like you have a bunch of different payment service providers that actually work in conjunction with the application, and in different areas of the world, different applications can actually be used as payment services. So, for instance, like in the U.S., you have Visa and Mastercard and a bunch of other things, and then in Europe, you might have Adyen and a bunch of other payment service providers as well. So, a lot of apps really do have this like plugin structure to allow for different payment systems. So this is kind of interesting here that it's a system-wide thing. Okay, what else we got? Uh, the winners of remote work. All right, Journal. Okay. Wild claims about K performance. Postgres. Visual Gaussian belief propagation. Okay, this looks interesting. Oh, ooh, Apple banned a pay equity Slack channel. Yeah, I remember getting access to that. That was holy shit. Holy shit. Okay, let's see what we get. Google's new AI photo is jaw-dropping. Okay, upscaling. I'm kind of curious about this one. Let's see what other news is really worth looking at. Ethereum contract in a pyramid scheme. Yeah, crypto's kind of shit right there. World zero viewers. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Ahmed? Good to have you in the stream, man. Yeah, I feel free to ask me any questions, man. Like right now, we're just doing a chill stream. The person who was supposed to show up like kind of canceled. So right now, it's like if you have any questions about like the video I uploaded today or any kind of tech, let me know. Let's see what else. What else is interesting to talk about here? Proposes left now. The left now is 2 weeks. Nah. Shell completion. RSA SHA-1. Not really. Not interesting. I'm so bad at Lico, but I work at Google, so I never interview. Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting, you know. You just have to like get in, and it's kind of interesting. It's like you just get in, you know, for some whatever reason. I've seen people at Uber do this shit. You know, they just randomly get in. They're not good at leak code, but you know somehow they're kicking ass at the company. So no harm in that, man. But you know, it's good to at least be good at leak code. And I'm kind of the belief that if you're a good engineer, you can naturally be good at leak code. I don't really subscribe to the belief that you have to study giga hard outside your realm of competence. Hey, what up, your teammate? But I'm studying. But I am studying again. Damn, those muscles get so sore. I'm a distributed systems pro, though. Yeah, no, I'll be the first to admit distributed systems is not my biggest forte. I only understand enough to really understand trade-offs. But if you ask me, like how it actually works underneath with like B trees for the databases and to really go step by step through like reconciliation between shards, I would be a fucking potato. So, good open source software engineer. Yeah, yeah. If you can contribute to good open source software, then that's really fucking phenomenal, man. I tip my hat to you. So you doing your job, great, man. So, out of curiosity, do you know how much quant devs and finance interviews and resources to get good at interviews for those sorts of roles? Honestly, if you're a good engineer and you're good at like actually solving real fucking problems instead of like just throwing code at something, you're probably gonna do pretty well at those interviews as well. I don't see why not. Yeah, check out Martin Keppel's book if you want to get good at distributed systems. Is this DDIA? Hold up. Let's actually take a look at what. Oh yeah, DDIA. Yeah, I honestly have read this like probably twice or three times, and still a lot of the details escape me. So like for instance, the one about shard and reconciliation. Yeah, I get like the asynchronous trade-off, but it's like being able to really recognize and know all that shit is it's like super fucking hard. Like it's something that I haven't really fully mastered or understood. And to be fair, I don't actually deal with databases on a regular basis, but I do understand like the general idea of it. But yeah, I think you're right. The DDIA book I highly recommend. But I'm more interested in like a lot of these news articles right now for that are showing up on Hacker News. What do you like doing outside of work? It seems like you work really hard. Yeah. Honestly, I just play Dota and go to the gym, dude, and smoke weed. Sue me. I know that's gonna get this video demonetized, but I don't give a fuck. But yeah, like a lot of times, a lot of my studying just goes around this shit. I do genuinely find this fun though. How to solve really really interesting and complex problems that no one else knows how to. So let's actually so it's kind of interesting. I don't really see it as work, but I do run into some burnout from time to time. So at this point, I only put in like 16 to 20 hours of additional work outside the normal 8 hours. Mm. I mean, I used to. I used to be able to go really hard, man. Like 14-hour days, 7 days a week. That's what I used to be able to do. But recently, I've had like physical ailments because of it. Like I would physically get ill. Like, let me give you an example. Like, I think this happened, like, the first time this really, really happened, and it was serious, was at Apple, where I was, like, pulling 12, 14-hour days, and on top of that, I was doing, like, some other competitive stuff. Like, at the time, it was ballroom dancing. And literally got to a point where one day I just straight up broke out into a fever and collapsed and passed out for, like, 2 hours. And this was, like, at midnight. And I had to call an Uber at, like, 1:30 in the morning. Like, I literally could not move. Like I had to like fall asleep. I had to literally sleep off the paralysis. And at that moment, I knew that I couldn't actually like keep pushing myself that hard anymore. So at most, I'll only do like 10-hour days. Like that. That's kind of like where I'm at right now. And I can tell like as I've gotten older, the physical ailments from like this burnout and shit has been like increasing in severity. So I know that a lot of hustle bros really say just grind and work like hell, but there's a limit to I think what you can really do. And I'll talk more about that maybe in a video if you guys want. But to be honest, I don't think that really hustling as hard as you possibly can, it can last forever. How frequently do you change companies? My standard for changing companies is whenever the engineering problems do not become interesting to me. That's when I know I'm ready to change. And that's kind of like the reasons why I left Apple. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but basically, Apple kind of operates as this walled garden. And because of that, it's kind of the antithesis to Android, where Android is very much an exchange of ideas, you know? And a lot of open source software is... So, based on that, we were really operating like in an enclosed walled garden, where we could only really view the outside world through a bunch of blog posts, but we didn't have like a sneak peek behind the curtain, so we were kind of on our own. So it got very difficult to really develop my skills beyond what our group already knew. It was like there's no exchange of information, there was no growth for me, and so I was kind of doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, the pinnacle of what I did there was really like build up the architecture, the core architecture of what we use today on Apple Music. So like the player, the way we navigate between pages, the way we make everything nice and easy to use, like the core infrastructure. That's basically what I ended up building, and I built out the basics of the testing suites as well. And then after that, I just kind of felt that there wasn't much else that I knew about that I could actually say, hey, yeah, I know enough about this to really put this in production. So that's kind of like one of the reasons why I left Apple. But honestly, I do miss the guys. Like, I do really value the team at Apple, and I think anyone who is lucky enough to get an offer from Apple, especially early on in their career, I think you should just friggin' take it. Like, the Apple engineers are some of the best you'll ever meet. They are the most driven, and of course you're going to be working crazy hours, but I guarantee you, you will not regret it. Even if you're working long hours, that is a really rewarding experience. The times I've been grinding code and whatnot, sometimes I feel like I'm missing out, or I should do something, or whatever you feel like that. I think I kind of discussed this in a previous video where I talked about getting senior level in 4 years. I think that for me, I was kind of put in a position where I didn't really have a choice. I had to like, fend for myself. I had to like, be able to really fight for my life, I felt like, because, everyone is, who the hell wouldn't want to work at Apple, and I really felt the need to push myself. And at the time, there wasn't really much else for me to do. I didn't have a car, so it was hard to socialize. It was hard for me to do really anything else. So I kind of just threw myself into work. And plus, I really wanted to be really good at my job. And I think that maybe I've overdone it so far. Because, once I did reach that point, I got to a point of my coworkers' respect. And then I kind of went to Uber. I kind of saw how, like, most of the industry operates, I would say. It's like people really see engineering as just a job instead of a career. A lot of people just end up wanting to write the code, finish the assignment, and go home. They don't care about the longevity of it. It's just like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And I feel like this is like a very big source of frustration for me a lot of the times. That you're constantly dealing with people who don't care about the code base, and you're really fighting against that tide, trying to make sure it doesn't blow up every single other effort that is occurring. And somehow the infrastructure is good enough, and I think Uber deserves a lot of praise for this, that they have developed a really good infrastructure that allows people to like kind of rail against it, and they are pretty bulletproof. Like, seriously, consider the fact that we build the same app, like same 3-5 apps out of the exact same code base, and somehow we haven't blown ourselves up. We ship the exact same app across the board. And it works in every single region. So if you download Uber in, like, say, North America, it's going to work in India. And I think that's pretty freaking phenomenal, considering all the region lock and shit that you really have to go through when you're building these apps. Like, let me give you an solid example, actually. Payment service processing. So, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, and there was, like, a news article here about, oh, yeah. Let me actually go to Hacker News, because I think this is really relevant to one of the news pieces that came out today. Apple and Google must allow other payment systems. Yeah, this one, the one I'm showing. So basically what you're seeing here is that for a lot of payment service processors, they are essentially region locked. So in the US, you might use like a Visa or MasterCard system. In another area, you might use like Adyen or in Europe, and then in India, you have something else. So essentially, you need to be able to have your core infrastructure work with all these other payment service processors, and be able to change them as you go throughout the region. So essentially, the code that is shipped in North America does technically have the India compatible payment service processor in it, but we just don't turn that on. And to be able to get all that down into an app that people can actually download over cellular and not break the limit for binary size is pretty awesome, actually. So the fact that Apple and Google must allow developers to use other payment systems, I think, is going to introduce a lot of interesting caveats to new developers, and a lot of developers might not actually like this law here. If Apple and Google allow other payment processors, the apps might not even conform to that, just because of like how difficult it is to just get all these payments to work. Like, I think this move is utterly meaningless. The sheer amount of support that you have to do across every single region is really fucking hard. This is nothing. Like, just because the wall of effort to get over that and actually act on it is so high. Whereas you can just say, oh, let me just use Google Pay and do everything at once, and Google Pay handle all my shit for me, or Apple Pay handle all of it, you know? So this is a big bill of nothing. So your mate said, yeah, it'd be interesting video of what my philosophy on work and hustle is. I think that the bottom line is that everyone who talks about working hard is really talking about the bare minimum. Like, putting in fucking 16 hours a day for 2 years of your life, that's like the bare minimum you need to obtain any kind of success, whether it's like meager or really high, like 1 million followers on YouTube, you know? And I remember I pulled that out for a really long time myself, and it's just like, I would say I only got up to like maybe the top 10% in anything I did, but it was never like that top 1% ever. So like a list of my accomplishments were like, I fenced for the US team when I was 16. That took 10 years of my life, essentially, and in high school, and like at my heyday, I was in high school. I was waking up at 7 a.m., get off school at 3 to 5, go to gym, 5, and then 5 to 6, try to get some dinner before I went from 6 to 9 to go to fencing practice, and then from 9 to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I would just do homework, you know? And then I'd go to bed at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So I only got like 3 hours of sleep. I don't even know how I fucking did it. And this went on for like 3-4 years, and at the best, I only got to represent the U.S. team in a few World Cups, you know? And that's probably more than what most people would do. But the fact of the matter is that I kind of expected more for the amount I was giving up. And I think that for most people, yeah, like it just sometimes just does not pan out no matter how much you give up. So there are people who work even harder than me or less than me and still get better results. So in my mind, just working really hard does not entitle you to results at all. So I don't buy the argument. So anyone saying, "Oh, I work hard, therefore I deserve my success," I don't think they've experienced enough failure to be humble enough. That's at least my take on it. And I mean, I've done more after that. You know, I got a patent when I was 21. Actually, let me show you that patent. Actually, yeah, no, it was 19. When I was 19. So Edward Chan patent. Let me show you something. So you see this? My fucking name is on a goddamn patent. You don't think I worked really fucking hard for this? Like, I worked my ass off to try and get shit like this done. And I can tell you that not everyone is able to do this. So anyone who really works hard and doesn't get results, like, all I care is that you really tried putting your effort and you're humble enough to admit that that you failed. That deserves a lot of respect from me. At least this is the way I see things. Yeah. I want to let you know that I'm a college kid who read your guide and did grokking coding interview and dynamic pattern for 3 months. Like 60 hours of study time and I got an Amazon internship. Thanks. Yeah, man, like, you put in 60 hours of studying, it doesn't take that long. That's, like, versus people who are putting in 40, 60 hours a week, versus 60 hours over the entire session, that's, like, the entire time you're studying, that's, like, what, 6 weeks of work? And you get an internship. Yeah, anyone can do it. And once you really get good at problem solving, and you really understand it, you never forget it. You do it in your career, you do it everywhere, you know? And, yeah, once you do it, you never forget it, and you never have to study again. That's kind of the beauty of what I'm asking from people. It's like, I'm not asking you to do 400 leak code questions. I'm asking you, give me 100 hours of very solid practice, and you will never have to study again, ever in your career. So, you doing this in 60 hours is really fucking nice, man. Trying to get a patent. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that the patent office is, like, really stingy about this shit. I think I have the fucking, actual piece of paper at my mom's place. I don't remember where I put it. I've moved a few times. I know I have a folder that actually has all the documents in it, and, you know, when they send you a patent, they send you the actual pencil and paper shit, you know? Actually, let me see if I can pull up an image here. I think I posted it at one point. Let me see if I know I took a picture of the actual patent itself. So let me pull that up for you guys. My photos. But yeah, I guess, like, while I'm looking for the photo, I guess I can talk a little bit more about, like, stuff that I did. Yeah, I tried doing competitive ballroom dancing for a while as well. And that's actually surprisingly really good for your back. Because a lot of what you do for ballroom dancing is, like, keeping your upper body very upright and keeping a very strong core. And it's really therapeutic because when you're in your chair like 12 hours a day, you're gonna have a tendency to hunch over. Your core gets really weak, so you just, like, start doing this shit, and then, like, oh my god, your back hurts. But realistically speaking, once you actually do ballroom dancing, you do, like, you know, keep your technique up and you keep your body upright. It really helps you. Like, after 6 weeks, I noticed, like, there was a huge change in my posture, and because of that, like, it really saved me a lot of years off my back of, like, going to a chiropractor and shit. I know people who are, like, my age who literally have chronic back pains just because of the amount of time they spend sitting. So, I would highly recommend that people actually try it, like, in a competitive manner. Try to get really, really good at the form and stuff. It is one of those more expensive hobbies, but I think that if you can find a good teacher who is really dedicated to really making sure that you can ballroom dance properly, it's a really great social skill as well. Like, seriously, not very many people know how to do it. My thoughts on trading time for money or financial independence. Fundamentally, yes. Everyone starts off trading their time for money, but it's essentially, as you grow in your net worth and shit, you essentially do end up at a point where you can start leveraging that, where instead you're not trading your time for money, you're trading your time for results. And that's essentially what I've done with my business. At the beginning, I was charging, you know, a couple, like, really cheap per hour. I think at the time it was like maybe 150 for 2 hours when I first started, so that's like $75 an hour. That's really fucking cheap. And as I grew my clientele list, and I was getting results after results from my clients, I can now charge based on what my clients get, you know? And so basically what I do is on an income share agreement. And so because I'm very confident in my high results, I can now say, hey, yeah, my time is worth this much, but the way I get it is by taking a proportional stake in what people do. And essentially, you're kind of doing the same thing with investing, really. You're investing your money in the results of another company. So as you grow, as you grow your wealth and shit, like this doesn't really change, no matter what you do in life. Actually, I met you on Blind, by the way, a year ago, when I made a dumb post, and you messaged me and sent me the guide. I'm doing EPI now to prep for Facebook and Google interviews. Yeah, man. Like, I'm glad you find value out of the guides I'm producing. Like, I spent like quite a bit of time on that shit. So if as long as you find value in it and you're using it, yeah, I'm really happy, man. Congratulations. And I really hope that you keep like following me. I really appreciate the support. How hard is it to get junior role than the internship? I would say internships are much harder than junior. The reason why is because for a lot of teams, they are mostly short-staffed for what's it called? They're short-staffed for actual engineers. Interns are a luxury that's like, okay, we have space, we have bandwidth, we can actually afford to hire we have time to actually bring on an intern who is only going to do 3 months of work for us, And after that, that's why it's like so competitive for so few spots. But once you actually get the qualifications to get a job, you get that job on your resume, it's so easy. So that's my take on it. So don't worry if you like can't get an internship. Once you get like the first job, it's so easy to get like the next job and break into FANG. It's not that difficult, I think. At least that's my take on things. Never study again. Is that even realistic in the tech industry? You don't need to study to switch jobs. As long as you care about your work, dude, like, and you really practice like being a good engineer, it's realistic. Like, literally, I know people like I haven't really studied for interviews. But then again, I guess that's not really fair for me to say because I'm the one like coaching people, so I kind of and I'm in an unfair advantage where I actually look at a lot of these problems and I'm constantly exposed to it. But for the most part, I think the thesis of what I've been trying to do here has really been, hey, yeah, if you think like a proper engineer and you focus on solving problems, actual problems, like not throwing code at a problem, you will think the same way in your lead coding. And you'll make it a habit. That's kind of like what I'm trying to say here. Got referred to Google, didn't get an interview with my resume after working in DevOps space for 6 years. Dude, that sucks, man. Like, what the hell? Like, you should, like, if you've been working in DevOps space for 6 years, that's like a lot of what people really want, especially at these big tech companies. So that's fucking weird, man. I honestly don't know. I don't know about that, man. Like, hit me up in the Discord. I'll see what I can do for you. But that sounds fucking weird. Man, like, I know I fucking uploaded this shit. Why can't I find the picture of my patent? Damn. Alright, maybe I need to wait for, what's it called? Facebook to do its thing. Damn it. Or maybe it's like, all my shit's in cold storage on Facebook servers or some shit. Let me see if I can just go through Google Photos, actually. Actually, hold up. Where's my phone? Max lifts. Oh, yeah. No, so honestly, I do go to a gym quite a bit. And I will say that, let's see, my max for my squats I think is like 2. No, I got up to 3 plates actually. Right now I'm cutting, but I should still be at around 3 plates for squat, 325 for deadlift, and my 1 rep max for bench is like 250. So, yeah, I think that was after like I got up to from 1 plate to 2 plates in about like 1 year actually. And then COVID hit, and then I lost my fucking muscles for like 3 months, and then I had to spend another 3 months to get it back. That shit was annoying. But yeah, I would say I've been going pretty consistently since like I would say probably July or August, and now I've gotten up to a pretty good spot. Honestly, now like I'm just working on cutting down the fat just because I've literally been doing like a bulk for a fucking year. But I honestly think that exercise is really, really important to your brain. Like, it's like, how do I describe it? It's like really, it's like if you can't, like whenever I don't fucking exercise, my body just becomes super, super restless. Like it just like literally will not do shit. Like I'll just like I cannot sleep until like 4 or 5 a.m. if I don't exercise. And so because of that, it's pretty fucking gnarly if I don't do it. So I've had to make it like a habit where now I literally need to go. I literally need to go to the fucking gym, or else I just like lose my shit. Okay, so Riru sent me his resume on Discord. Let's see what's up. All right. Yeah, let me help you out, man. Okay, my request on LinkedIn, bro. I only accept people I've actually worked with on LinkedIn. It's really like, you can follow me. You don't have to send like a friend request to follow me on LinkedIn. But mostly I just communicate through like Discord. 9 times out of 10. Yeah. I was second interview with Accenture. Okay. It should be in the what's it called? The chat, not the chat, but the stream description. I think I linked all the socials at the bottom of all my videos as well. Oh man. I remember. Oh man, these photos bring back like memories, man. I'm like literally trying to go back to like fucking 2014 shit, and all I have are like a bunch of fucking weed pics. All right, let's see what you got. In the meantime, let's actually look at. I'm gonna look at this guy's resume. I'll put it on stream. So let's see what you can do. Let's see. Okay, first of all, like holy fuck, dude, like you're actually using like Arial, like a fucking default shit. Man, that's like super not stylish, but whatever. I'm not gonna pick on that. So let's see. Oh yeah, you probably might want to black out your personal info, bro. I'm gonna try hiding it, but honestly, I'll cut it out in the replay for the stream replay. But to be honest, like this shit is you really want to black out your fucking shit, bro. So let's see. Seeking DevOps, sure. I honestly don't like the objective. Personally, that's not my thing. Senior Associate Infrastructure Environment Manager. That's probably why. I mean, I honestly would kill the manager shit. Because most people are looking to hire engineers, and you're a manager, so that's kind of a different beast right there already. Let's see next. Design and build main skilled infrastructure multiple environment. Okay, this is vague as fuck, man. Like build and design, build, maintain, and scaled infrastructure for multiple environments of internal applications to different cloud infrastructure platforms. Like it's like you did this shit, but then like why? Like what internal platforms? I think it'd be good to like give them a name. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand why this is here. Like okay, what you design, build, and maintain? What was like? Because anyone can quote unquote scale, but scale from how many people to how many people? You know, you design, build, maintain. What kind of infrastructure features did you actually do? You know, and so because of that, I'm just fucking baffled. Like, why would you not? Like, why would you not do that? You know, you should be very specific. Okay. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is here's a picture. Here's the fucking picture of the patent. I mean, this is an old ass picture, but yeah, this is like what they actually send you. They send you a booklet that's printed out of the actual patent. But yeah. Next, let me go through your next the resume. Deployed, maintained at hundreds of running pods. Okay. Yeah, these are remote pods. Cool. Used by over 50 application teams in production, acting as primary infrastructure contact. This is pretty good. Like, I know what the benefit of running pods are, but essentially these are like remote working machines. I think this is fine. But I would also like to see a number attached to this. Give me some like what is the percentage increase in efficiency? How much faster is it to build your code base? You know, because you know there's only so much. We get it. The problem statements kind of fit itself. You know, there's only so much performance that you can squeeze out of like a 6-core MacBook. But when you're dealing with a gig ass monorepo, this makes sense why you need like a remote pod. But I want to see some numbers on here, bro. Develop Flask API working with internal clients to design workflow. This is a nothing burger. Like, I don't know what the Flask API is used for. Internal clients. Who are your internal clients? Is it infrastructure? And what to design workflow? Workflow for what? Is it just like design like what? You know, like this is just way too vague. I want it to be more specific. Give me some oomph here. Make it sexy, dude. Troubleshooting network authentication. Blah blah blah. Security metric. This is just listing off a bunch of shit. Like, I want to see some action. I want to see, like, you driving some impact. You're a manager. You should be able to, like, say, hey, I did this that created an impact. This is nothing again. Like, it's just some vague actions that you took. Implemented vault cons and secret for data management. Okay, fine. This is like a bottom. I would say put this at the bottom, man. Yeah, containerized suitable developer instruction. Okay, this is basically talking about Docker. Implemented cloud solution utilizing internal component. Hold up. With security best practices. Okay, fine. This is you basically a internal. It's like you're basically creating Docker images. Fine. Creating it. Communicate with develop, troubleshoot and get. Okay, I understand what you're trying to do here. You're trying to say, hey, yeah, I was responsible for all the infrastructure, but the way you're wording it just makes it sound like, hey, I'm just doing the basics, you know? So what I really want to see from this is like every single action that you do, I want to see like a project that you did, and I want to see the before and after results. I want to see the level of impact that it took. Or maybe you want to say that it took some kind of organizational complexity, you know? Maybe you had to rally around, maybe get 7 engineers on a team in order to fucking get this done. Or maybe you had to negotiate through with a lot of cross-functional like teams. You know, how many people across the organization did you have to compromise with? Did you have to talk to all the tech leads of all the product teams in order to sell this initiative? Did you have to talk to like leadership? So basically, what you're essentially doing is like the advanced beginner version of a college resume. This is the way I can describe this. You're advanced beginner. You're not trying to sell me on some organizational complexity. You're not trying to sell me on some engineering complexity. All you're just saying is, this is what I did. I want you to make what you did sexy, dude. I want you to make me say, holy shit, this is awesome. You know? And I'm not getting that from this. You know, you need to be able to show me some actual results. Like, think of it this way. If you're talking to the fucking VP of your company, and the VP asks, tell me what you did and why it's meaningful, or you're fired. You should be able to make each one of these statements justify your job. And you're saying, oh, I implemented Vault console secret configs and shit. It's like, yeah, maybe that he'll let that slide as like, yeah, I get it. We need data management. We need to put everything at LastPass so we're not saving everything in plain text, our secure keys and shit. But the fact of the matter is that he needs more. The VP is going to need more, or else he's going to fire your ass. So think of it like this way. You're fighting for your fucking job, or he's going to axe you. How would you state your experience then? Yeah. So really, just like fucking make those changes, send it to me again, and I'll quickly go over it. Like, honestly, like, this was supposed to be a coaching stream, but my client just kind of yeeted out. And so, like, whoever wants me to review, like, resumes or, like, talk about some shit specific to them, feel free to ask away. Like I'm here, man. Hey, what do you think about software engineering at Jane Street, Hudson, and 2 Sigma? They seem highly looked up to, but at the same time, I've heard one usually ends up making the same level in total compensation after 5 years at Fang. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. If you're in like a hedge fund or quant, you really start optimizing on performance and doing some crazy low-level shit. But after 5 years, I think that you might get paid a little bit more at these quant hedge funds. So let's actually go to levels.fyi. Let's actually look at software engineer for like L5, Facebook, Google, whatever. So Facebook, approximately 390, right? 400K. That seems about right. 358 at Google. I would say let's say 64, 245 at Microsoft. All right, so let's just say like 350-ish for senior, right? And then let's go to like Jane Street. Oh, what the fuck? 2 Sigma. Yeah. So let's just say L4. Yeah. So you get basically a little bit higher up here because they mostly give it to you cash and bonuses. So really, a big chunk of this is how much money you can generate and how good you are. If you're even average, then you make a big fucking chunk of money. And plus, this is all fucking cash too. So if you really don't believe in the appreciation of your stock, then it's fine. Then yeah, but if you really take appreciation into account, you actually make more at like Fang and Facebook, depending on if you believe in if you believe in their appreciation. Like Apple has done some crazy fucking shit. Let's look at Apple stock, man. In the past fucking 5 years, it's like fucking 500%. Let's just say how it's 450%, 100% IRR, or something like that. No. I'm looking for the rate of return. So let's just, I think it's like that's like 30% year over year, raised to the fifth. Yeah, okay, that's like maybe 40%. Let's say 40%. No, 35%. Yeah. So like, this is basically means that Apple is returning fucking 35% year over year on you. So, like if you believe your stock can appreciate 35 fucking percent year over year, like then you should probably go to Fang. Yeah, I honestly think like, this is not investment advice, but I literally have like a big fucking shit ton of my money literally concentrated in Apple, like, just because of this shit. It's fucking insane. So honestly, like like I just personally would prefer like working for a company I believe in. That's really it. But if you really just want the cash in order to invest in what you want, then I would say take the 2 Sigma. What do people usually do as hedge funds and software engineers? Really just optimize the performance of a lot of your formulas and try to capitalize on a lot of short-term market trends. The face when I failed my on-site for JavaScript this year. Oh, Jane Street. Yeah, man, I feel for you. It sucks getting rejected like that. Is the stock better for tax reasons? Why can't they just put the money into stocks? No, basically what happens is that the money is held into stocks, and then whatever is given to you at vesting counts as your income. So for instance, let's say Apple gave me $100,000, right? And then after like 3 years, it vests, just as an example, at 3 times. So then it vests at $300,000. It's given to actually me at $300,000. For that year, that would be plus $300,000 to my income. Now, can't I accept cash? I mean, technically, I could have accepted $100,000 in cash and then invested it into Apple and still gotten the exact same result. Well, not really, actually. If I invested, then the difference would be capital gains tax. So I'd be taxed less, actually. So the reason why is because that difference of $300,000 minus the $100,000 of investment, and then I'd be like, let's say it's 40% tax, right? I'd lose $40,000 of that. And then the difference, I'd be like doing $60,000, and then I would gain fucking whatever that math is, let's say triple, like $180,000. So you're basically talking. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let me actually write this down. This is actually too hard to do in my fucking head. So let's say like I make $100,000, right? And then at vest in situation A. Let me blow this up. Actually, you know what? Let me go to Google Docs. I mean, it's a little bit easier to show this here on paper here. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. So let's say I was given $100,000 in stock, right? And then vest at 3x, right? When it vests, it appreciated 3x. So in situation A, let's say that you got stock, right? And then RSUs. Then in situation B, it's all cash. So then what would happen is that when it vests at 3x, you'd be given $300,000 of income. And let's say your marginal tax bracket is 40%, right? So then you would take away 120K for tax. So which means that you're equal to 180K of post, right? And so let's say you were given all cash as that, right? In situation B. And then you decide to invest it in the exact same stock. Well, let's say 100K cash income minus 40%, which is 40K. So that's 60K here in income. And then all go into stock. And then after 3 years, that 60K becomes 180K. So realistically speaking, it doesn't make a difference if you're going to invest all your money in that stock. It's just that in the all cash scenario, that you have more flexibility with your income. If you doesn't necessarily have to be tied up to a company if you don't believe in it, you know? And so you could technically invest this in like an index fund if you really don't believe the company was going to 3x. So that's kind of there. That's kind of like the situation. So all this is just flexibility. What company would you leave Uber for? That's a really hard question to answer. I really only do engineering for the sake of engineering. And so I would really only leave Uber if the engineering problems that I was facing was not sufficiently interesting to me. Or maybe they undervalued the work I was doing, but that's kind of a different thing. That's a whole different thing altogether. But honestly, if I had to say, like on the horizon, there's only like three companies. I don't really want to go into like small. I'd rather not say on stream, but basically these are all blue chip companies that I really think are really good culturally, because I think one of the big things I learned is that you can't pay me enough to be miserable. Like, would I be overpaid and be in an environment where I was dealing with people who didn't care? I would not accept that at all. I'd rather be underpaid and work with people who are really smart. Um, that's just kind of like one of the lessons I've learned. It's like, let me give you a story. One of my friends, he worked at Tinder. And so if I bring him like the Match Group stock price, he basically got in. He worked for Tinder when it was like at, I want to, let's say max. He started in 2016, right? And he got in when the options were had a strike price of like $20. They've appreciated like 6-7 times as much, but but he basically had to wait 4 years for that to appreciate 6-7 times. And in that entire fucking time, he was like necking himself. He really hated the company, and so he basically like almost self-destructed a little bit. He just like started buying like fucking ridiculous shit. Like he bought a Porsche for no fucking reason other than he liked it. He ended up like buying a bunch of ridiculous shit, just because in order to cope with how badly he did not like the company. And so he got his like fucking $2-3 million off of that, like literally off of just joining at the right time as an entry level engineer. But throughout the time, he just fucking hated it. So when I saw him like kind of like start self sabotaging like that, I knew that that could happen to me, and I knew like having a little bit of taste of that, I knew that that's another path I wanted to walk down. I mean, I'm giving up 10 hours of my life to a company and project. I want to at least make sure I believe in the company and the people around me, So that's that aspect that I really think about. Oh yeah, the capital gains shit. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Let me actually complete the let me complete that example that I just gave. You're right. I forgot to calculate the capital gains. So let's say that you actually sell, right? So if you sell this, then you actually pay zero in tax because it didn't appreciate. So you already paid the income tax. But in all cash, you're paying. And then if you sell here, then you pay the difference between when invested at. So 180k minus 60k equals 120. Okay, so you get taxed on 120k, which is let's just say you're only doing federal for now. So that's long, and let's say it's long term. It's 15%. So then you only keep like 0.85 of that. So this is the amount you get taxed on. So whatever this fucking amount is, calculator. Let's say 120 times 0.85. So you only keep 102k. So keep. Oh wait, no. I got that fucked up. Hold up. It's 15%. My bad. So let's say 120k times 0.15 because that's your taxable amount. So then you minus 18k, minus 180k, minus 18k in capital gains. So you shave off 10%. You're right. 162k in profit. So then 180k. Yeah. So you lose out on 10%, but I think I would pay 10% to keep flexibility, really. Unless I was like super all in the company. So you're right, Marvin. So then 120k in taxable. And then times 0.15 in long-term capital gains. Equals to 18k paid in capital gains tax. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for the correction. What are your thoughts on product management at big companies? I don't get why they're paid so much. So basically the idea of product management is like you're trying to make sure everything is palatable to everyone. So the engineers are more like on the technical side, but product management is more like, hey, how do we sell this product? How do we make sure that the engineers understand what is going on? How do we make sure that the end consumer is what is needed? It fits our focus group. So realistically speaking, it's basically the consumer facing part of the engineering efforts. This is the way I think of product management. And if you're talking about engineering managers, that's a whole different story. But product managers are really just there to make sure that whatever product they work on sells. And they're not usually working on like one at a time. They were working on like three and try to make sure everyone from the designer and all the business side are really on the same page. You're really paying for someone who can manage like a whole bunch of different hats at a very high level. And in my opinion, a lot of engineers are better off as product managers because like most of them can't really think about code. They're only good enough. They're like product managers who can write code. That's really it. If you sense that early, would you hop ship and ignore vesting? Yeah. Like I'm at a point in my life where I can pick and choose what I want, like and what I believe in. I can walk away from things I don't believe in. So that's kind of the beauty of like, just doing things right and picking the right place. Of course, it doesn't hurt that Apple appreciated like 5-6x since I joined. And that's given me a lot of the financial independence to pick and choose. And, I see things as once you're good enough, people will pay you a lot of money to do what you're good at if your skill is very valuable. That's why I like heavily suggest really investing in your engineering skills rather than trying to pump out product. You invest in your engineering skills, that pays dividends for the rest of your life. You invest in just writing product really quickly, you get replaced by someone else who can do your job for cheaper, That's the way I think of it. And I think like a lot of people in this industry just focus on writing products. And hey, we need that because not everyone can be a superstar that really is capable of being a very, very good engineer. So, but it also means that you're at a higher risk of being replaced. You pick your poison really at that level. But to each their own. That's all I'll say about it. In the meantime, I kind of want to look at a little bit of the Hacker News stuff, not just so I'm not like constantly rambling on about things. I kind of want to give my thoughts on a lot of these news articles because especially I think you guys really liked my thoughts on the payment system and its impact on architecture. So if you guys like see any news articles that you want me to really try and really evaluate from an engineering perspective, feel free to link it in the chat, So I'll let the questions build up, and then I will actually and I'll read like 1 or 2 of these articles for you guys, and then I will go ahead and answer some questions. So feel free to keep pouring the questions in. I'll read them for sure. So let's see here. Edgar filing. Okay, so Allbirds is filing for IPO. Judge. Okay, this is conflict of interest shit. Let's actually. I think the more interesting thing one while we're on the topic of pay is this one. Apple banned a pay equity Slack channel, but let Fun Dogs channel lie. So I was actually messaged this Slack channel and the sheet that followed with this. So basically, if you don't know, there was someone who was basically trying to gather all the pay of everyone who was in Apple in order to try and figure out how much everyone was worth and whether or not people were being paid fairly. Think of it like an internal FYI, internal levels.fyi Google Docs. And the fact that they banned it is, it's hard for me to say. Let's actually see why the official quote-unquote reason. Let's see. Apple had barred employees from creating a Slack chat, blah, 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 blah. A member of the employee relations team while the topic was aligned with Apple's commitment to pay equity, did not meet the company's Slack use of terms of use. Okay. Slack channels are meant to conduct Apple business and must advance the work, deliverables, or mission of Apple departments and the teams. Employee relations. Okay. Yeah, company's rule for in-office app says Slack channels for activities and hobbies are not recognized as Apple employee clubs or diversity network associations aren't permitted and shouldn't be created. So basically saying no fun allowed on Slack channels. Okay, fine. But then they also have like all these other fun channels as well. Employment attorneys Vincent P. White says that invoking Slack terms may simply be an excuse to block discussion of workplace pay disparity, since doing so outright would violate labor laws. Discussing pay equity is a protected activity. Yeah, while everyone agrees on that, for them to try and impair employees' ability to discuss equity and diversity in the workplace is a clear cut of retaliation. Um, okay, I understand this. I understand like the perspective here. But if I had to put my Apple hat on, let me finish reading the article and I'll give you my thoughts. Pay equity has been a hot topic amongst Apple employees over the past few months. The company has shut down multiple employee surveys aimed at gathering data. One survey started by Apple engineer Cher Scarlett has seemingly been allowed to stay. An early analysis of the results showed a 6% wage gap between the salaries of men and women who participated. Now, organizers want to create a space for employees to discuss pay issues. While Apple previously said it did not have a pay equity problem, employees are suspicious. The company's recent behavior, including shutdown and now banning a pay equity Slack channel, has only been exacerbated these concerns. It sure is very convenient for Apple to use these terms of service they wrote are extremely useful for crushing free and open communication. Okay. My first knee-jerk reaction is that you have the luxury of working with literally the fucking most hardworking, brilliant people in the world. But, that makes me sound like a corporate simp. Fine. But in my view, I think Apple literally is just that. Literally the people who work the fucking hardest in the industry based on my experience there. Even though I don't work at Apple anymore. But the other side of the argument, I understand. People really want to make sure that they're being paid fairly. But that's the thing about, like, when you work at these companies that are very much result-oriented. And I think Apple is very much that. Is that your pay is very much tied to your results. And people want to be, quote-unquote, working equally. You know what I mean? Like, they want to see that they and the next person next to them are paid equally for the exact same work and the exact same results. But the fact of the matter is that people don't really produce the same results, and a lot of these results are very hard to quote-unquote to measure. So let me give you an example. If you clean up your entire company's code base, what is the result of that? Well, you can't really put a number to that, Like, for instance, refactoring to make sure people don't shoot themselves in the foot. How do you measure that? Are you going to really spend weeks and weeks filtering through Jira tickets in order to try and justify your work? No. So a lot of the pay equity is really based on just a very intangible and up to your manager's discretion. And that cuts both ways. If your manager doesn't understand the engineering effort, then that will hurt you. If the manager understands the engineering effort, that will boost you. And having that across the board is really, really hard. Especially when a lot of these departments are not equally weighted and do not equally contribute to Apple's bottom line. Like, in a specific example, like, Android at Apple does not bring in a lot of money compared to, like, the iOS version of Apple Music. I've never seen that, but this is what I would guess. So naturally, the engineers on iOS would probably get paid a fuck ton more than the people on Android. And the department for Android would be given a whole lot less. That's just the way it is. But if I thought of it from Apple's perspective, and in general, the industry, there's a really, really tense relationship between employers and employees right now. With the work from home shit. And from Apple's perspective, it's like trying to make sure that app employees don't hurt the company. Because all it takes is just one. So, for instance, Apple has, like, a lot of problems with, like, leaks and shit. And so a lot of the things that they've been doing has been trying to, like, quote-unquote, make sure that the employees don't step out of line. So I think this is just kind of another element in that saga of just, like, Apple trying to keep their employees in line, make sure, hey, man, you are lucky enough to work at this company, and don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up for the company, because all it takes is just one. And so I understand both sides. I understand why this is going to be a problem. I understand this. But to be honest, it's not a discussion that I really feel particularly one way or the other about. It's just because I understand it. So, call me a corporate simp for Apple, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that I think that Apple, like, is okay in doing this, but it's also, like, it's the rational way for Apple to handle things. And if employees really care, they can definitely sue Apple for that. But no one's going to sue Apple because, it affects their livelihood. So, it's like, how much do you really care about this action? That's all I'll say about it. So let's see. Let's answer some questions. If you how to invest in engineering skills, advice for juniors. So I did a video on the books that you should read if you're an engineer at any level. So let me actually show you something. I think I did this last stream, but like. So here are like some of the books. Designing patterns, refactoring, improving the design of existing code, and Code Complete. And then there's also Clean Code as well. You read those books that I've recommended in the video, you'll be fine. I personally think that once you read those, you will literally be better than 80% of people out there. The reason why is because so many people don't, like I said before in the stream, people don't give a shit about their career. And very few people have actually read this book until you actually get to like senior level and a little bit above that. So let me actually link you that video. So once you actually the way you read these books is that you read like maybe a chapter, 10 pages, you know? You're not trying to read the book in one sitting. That's utterly impossible. You read one chapter and just try to apply it for a week. And then you read the next chapter and you try to apply it for a week, etc., etc. And once you do that enough times, you'll understand, hey, this is why this pattern works. This is why this pattern doesn't work. This is like the benefits and drawbacks in the long run. And eventually you have to live with your mistakes each and every single time. But I guarantee you, if you like really make a genuine effort, you will see this pay off in dividends, like in 6 months to a year after you've read it. So let me actually link you the fucking video here. And I'm not like talking hot shit. Let me show you something. Oh yeah, and also the pragmatic programmer. This is how you should think. This book is like a pretty good outline for how you should think as an engineer. But this shit is like so important that I literally have fucking notebooks written like with notes. And I'll thumb through this from time to time. Literally like maybe once a year, I'll like try to refresh my memory on a lot of the things in Clean Code just to make sure that I don't forget them. Like this is like my book for clean code, clean architecture, and refactoring. And you know, like again, another notebook of a bunch of notes. And so when you read these books, I think you should really take notes on them. Like, oh, for instance, this is a control flag. How to handle like switches in code when you want to, switch from one code snippet to another. And this is actually the basis for a lot of feature flagging that you see at big companies. So these concepts are very relevant, and they just scale up to a system level once you actually understand them. So realistically speaking, so in short, take each one of these books and just make sure that you make a genuine effort to try and apply them in whatever project that you're doing. It may or may not apply, but just, give it a try. And once you see enough examples and you've made enough mistakes, in a year, you can be a very good judge of what good code and good system organization really entail. Ryu says, he just sent me an updated resume. So yeah. I'll look at this at the end of the stream after this. Sam says, do you mentor interns and or moreover general, what are you looking for in an intern candidate or returning to full-time? So actually this is funny. So I've had the experience of being a buddy to essentially 2 interns, one at Apple and one at Uber. So basically the return offer is up to the manager, but the buddy for those interns actually is usually some L4 engineer at Apple or at that company. And so really what we look for is making sure that you really are spending the time to actually learn things and really, really apply yourself and really get as much as you can out of the internship. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Your job at the internship is really to learn shit, because this is your first exposure, most likely, to really writing production stuff. Like all the shit that you learn in college and in your classes probably only apply at a quote-unquote theoretical level, but they don't apply on a practical level. And really, you're around people who have a lot of years of experience. So get as much as you can out of it. And if you make that effort to really learn and try to say, hey, Edward, I need 15 minutes, 30 minutes of your time. Tell me everything you know about this problem space. Tell me how you would think about this. Tell me how I can improve. Literally just having that attitude, if we can see that and you actively try to apply it and you end up applying it by the end of your internship and actually come out with a good product, we will give you that return offer 9 times out of 10. We want to see candidates and interns who make a genuine effort to really apply themselves and learn from their internship. Like, that's like the most important thing, at least this is my perspective. So if you can do that, that's gonna be fucking brilliant. So let's actually look at your return resume. Okay, so this is what he sent. So let me just put the line breaks here. So we're gonna follow up his resume. Let's see if this is better. That's better. Onboarded teams. Okay. So let's see. So design and implemented cloud solutions and standardizations for 100 plus Java microservices. Okay, sure. I would probably say a number of devs and teams. This might be a little bit better, just because, like, you know, many teams can handle microservices. I would say if you can put it in terms of dev and teams and the microservices, it might be pretty good. Provided data management for configuration sequence keys certificate through Vault. Yeah. I definitely want to see, like, some level of organizational impact, or like what you had to do to make this a thing. Did you have to, like, get buy-in from senior leadership? Did you have to talk to a bunch of staff engineers? You know, that shit. Develop Flask API using Python libraries to integrate with existing Jenkins pipeline team to ingest data. Okay, this is just way too fucking wordy. I'm gonna tell you this. That shit is wordy. I know what Jenkins is. You don't need to say pipeline here. Trigger actions on platform. Okay, I get that the Flask API is used to integrate with Jenkins in order to trigger, like, those jobs. Fine. But it's like, you could have just said that very simply. And then said, after that, how many teams are using this? What is the uptime of these, uptime of these jobs? How widely spread used is it? You know? That's probably something you might want to do. Next one. Develop Docker images and created sidecars for logging, metrics, liveness, monitoring. Alertness P99. Okay, yeah, 99% uptime, SLA 5000. Okay. Today by different teams to support cloud development. Shorten this one. Shorten this. Make this, like, less wordy. But I understand what you're doing. This is capturing the right idea. Onboarded teams and adapted changes in real time to handle new. More specific. It's like, I get you're trying to onboard teams, but is it like trying to do, like, some dev education? Internal talks? Like, this kind of effort. I want to see, like, you expand your effort for shit. Like just show me what it takes to onboard teams. What does it take? Improved release process through defining success criteria across teams by creating diagrams and documentation. Fine. Creating I don't know. This sounds kind of shit. I would say created by creating documentation, and, like, you just wrote documents on this. Like, how about enforcing it? How did you enforce this? How were you able to get buy-in and get other people to agree when they have competing interests? You know, like, this shit. It's like, it can't just be, again, like, oh, you did this by doing this. You know, there's always, like, a hitch in this. There's always, like, something that prevents you from fully doing it. So for instance, it's like, how'd you get buy-in and get people to agree when they have, you know, maybe some project going on? Like, hey, I'm trying to get this shit out the door. I don't give a fuck about your success criteria. I just want to ship my code and move on. How do you manage that? I want you to give me some key insight into this. And moreover, make sure this does not take 3 lines to express. I want you to be able to give me some hint of how you're really managing this. So, that's my feedback to you, man. All right. So we have like we're starting to wind down on the audience for stream. So get your questions in. I'll probably stop the stream in a little bit, but like maybe in like 10 minutes. So if you guys really want to ask me other things, feel free. Go right on ahead, man. I kind of want to get through some more hacker news shit. I think a lot of people like this. Navajo Water Project keyframe animation. First key. The anatomy of assholes. Holy shit. Okay. This is actually kind of cool. Hold up. Hold up. A lot has been written about assholes over the years, but what is an asshole really? What are the traits and characteristics of? Okay, you know what? This is way too philosophical. Fuck it. I'm just gonna looks like this is just more of a Oh yeah, I think this diagram kind of represents like quote unquote the asshole. So let's see, dominant asshole, extroverted, pushover. Okay, the diametric opposite to a asshole. Okay, a callous asshole, or if you're nice, is I assume the callous asshole means you don't care about what comes out of your mouth, and you're just like whatever. Okay, cold-hearted, quiet asshole's like I hate you, I don't care. Introverted, fine. I guess as you go around the wheel, it's like how much of an asshole is expressed in this direction, and then here is like it's not, and then here is like how much you communicate and how much you don't communicate. Okay, I get this. Personally, I exist somewhere between callous and quiet asshole. I'm not gonna lie. I've had like many times where I've had to literally tell people, do not do this again. Do not make me write this comment again. And then after that, I just don't talk to them. So I'm kind of like the one and done deal. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I try not to let people push me over. I do not exist in this space as well. I mean, from time to time I will be nice if I see like people put an effort, man. But honestly, this wheel is kind of pretty cool. So if you guys like are interested in this, just message, like put in like what part of the asshole circumflex you're in and why. Like I legitimately think this is like really fucking funny, and I'll link this in the chat too. How can you stand out while applying to new grad and entry level roles? Dude, just come up with a good resume, make the resume stand out, and test well. That's it. Like literally, if I met a new grad engineer who was able to perform, who was able to think like a proper engineer, I'd be so fucking impressed. I'd be even more impressed if you read clean code. Like, do you know like how there's like so few like junior level engineers who really understand like what they're doing. They just only think of code as writing code. But realistically speaking, if you could start thinking like a proper engineer as a L3, that's fucking phenomenal. And I would be very much on your side. So, and that will come through when you really talk about like your experience and how you evaluate leak code problems. I'm of the belief that you can figure out what kind of engineer a person is and how good they are as an engineer through leak code. That's just the way I see things. And I have the results to prove it with my coaching. So let's see now. Oh, this is interesting. Software licensing. Sweet. Okay. For the register, free license could be obtained by registering online with a software vendor. The software became abandonware in 2009 when it ceased to be offered, and while the software binary has been archived to date, there's been no effort to restore the functionality once available with a free license. Okay, so basically it's like you used to have a free piece of software, and then you would validate it with like a key, and then after that it'd be good. So, okay. Disassembling the binary. They reverse engineer projects looking at the what's it called, the assembly code. Cool. Okay, so this is just the assembly code, so you can see like all the instructions here. Fine. IDA automatically functions. This is not perhaps by Gerda. As it turns out, this is one function that would be relevant to our analysis. So what he's saying is like if you see like all these instructions in a way, these represent usually some kind of function. And I think if you really look at a lot of bytecode enough times, you will kind of see patterns across the way things are compiled. We know the metadata for this build. A build was produced in Delphi 7. Both have trouble with Delphi libraries, resulting in missing symbol names and missing labels related to Delphi classes. To overcome this, we leverage IDR, which extracts the relevant symbols from the binary. Okay, yeah, it's just basically saying, hey, when you decompile this shit, there's no symbols. We need to get those symbols back. So use this program. Fine. Wait, do I have a template for asking questions to make sure that you are communicating enough information to show effort? If you're talking about as a candidate, I don't have a template. It's really you got it or you don't. That's it. If you know how to think properly, like an engineer, and really tackle problems in a logical manner, you will show that. That's it. Just try to think logically about building your solution step by step. If you can just exercise on that one philosophy, you're golden. Make sure that every single step in the process is logical, can be followed, and you can keep everyone on track. Just keep the steps as simple as possible. You'll get there. So, any reason to do his master's in CS? If you want to do machine learning stuff, yeah. You can import this data using Drake, which will greatly analyze the symbol. Okay, sure. So this is basically about them like decompiling the program and look at the assembly code. Fine. We note that the contains references to they're looking for this specific string. Fine, and they're gonna try looking for this string inside the instructions. Okay. So eventually they look at this code. So basically the way they are be able to generate these if statements is by looking at this code here. So they take like all these instructions and then they get it converted to some like essentially C level code. And then what's it called? Drake, I think, allows you to do this. And then from there on, you can actually register each of these addresses as variables. So this is where this comes from. So you can see here that this local variable takes this address here. And so what they were specifically looking for is this particular string because they see it in their program. So we observed in the decompiled code, it's stored under some variable under certain circumstances. Then they set this 1 to 2 and then compared the original value. Okay, so they're comparing two addresses and values at those addresses. That's fair. So you would talk about steps taken and attached sources. No, it's really just when you talk about your projects. That's it. Like, hey, this is the problem that I was facing. These are the steps I took, and here's the story. If you can provide the story in a logical way, in a way that's expansive and highly impactful, and has a lot of complexity to it, then you can make that complexity very easy to understand. I think that kind of says a lot. So let me actually give you a really solid example. Hold up. Story time. So when I was working on the vaccine project, which is, if you don't know, Uber aired a commercial during the Super Bowl where people could actually donate rides to other people in order to get free rides to their vaccine appointments. And the problem that this was solving is that in a lot of low income and impacted communities, it'd be very difficult to go from their place to the actual vaccine appointment. Like in these places, a lot of people don't have cars or they do a lot of carpooling. So essentially it would take them like 2-3 hours by bus to make their vaccine appointment. So what Uber and Lyft were trying to solve is that, hey, you can now go to your appointment for free. So this is the problem space that we're trying to solve. The complexity on the engineering side is twofold. The first is how do you create a campaign that can register these payments and donations for free? And the second one is how do you store them in the proper accounts? Because legally speaking, it cannot sit in an Uber account because Uber is a for-profit company. So you cannot hold donation funds in that account. So how are you going to solve this? So what we did was actually put the money in another account that was specifically registered for nonprofit, and it was like registered with some other company as well. So basically what ended up happening is that we would route the payment specifically through the same system that we use to check out and pay for rides and shit. Except the destination of that funds was going to be in a separate account, so we flagged it with a separate ledger. Now, so that's where the complexity had to be resolved. Now, how this worked end to end essentially was trying to get everyone to use a new system called Checkout. And what Checkout did was try to convert all transactions into a universal funnel. So like it would resemble a checkout that you would see on like say a shopping website. So being able to incorporate that with the quote unquote destination source for a nonprofit account was actually quite difficult. And being able to make the component universal as well. So being able to lead that effort was and get everyone to buy into using that new and updated component while trying to get this done in 3 weeks was pretty much the challenge. And architecturally, the way we did it was we separated out the things we knew and the things we didn't know. So essentially, we created like this bubble where it's like, okay, we're gonna take all the code in a very nice template that is easily flexible, and then do a dependency inversion. So that way we can swap out the universal component for a old component if things go to shit. We did this on both the back end and front end, so that way each one would be pointing to two different sources, the universal checkout and then the old way of checking out. So we would be able to flip that in case something went wrong. So that is the complexity, and being able to get people to agree to it. And the key to getting people to agree to it is if you can map out the architecture for them and say, hey, this is exactly how you're going to write this code. This is exactly how it's going to be organized. All you have to do is execute on it and convince them why it's only going to take 3 weeks to do. That is it. So, and in order for us to actually ship that, it means that you actually need to understand how the code on the mobile side is constructed. You need to understand how the code on the back end is actually constructed and how it interacts with this layer. So this is only possible if you fully understand the things front to back. So that is how I would sell the organizational complexity of that project. Like, so you saw here how I was able to say, hey, this is the project. This is the challenges we faced. Here's the organization. Here's how we solved it. And here's why this shit is special. So that's how I would sell one of my projects. So I'm going to finish up this blog post. We therefore hypothesize that dat contains a flag representing whether or not the software is registered. Okay, so this is the one variable, the one address that represents the flag for yes or no, you are registered. So that is how they're going to test this. They just strip the debugger and then set the variable. Fine. People are still using wine. All right, sure. We can see that L64 address where the data is being read corresponds to if local check. Yeah, so they hypothesize that this address contains a flag. And so when they trick the debugger, they just need to make sure that this instruction lines up. All right, cool. So then they manually change the address and they resume execution. So yeah, and then they see here that this worked here. So then the question now is that how do you actually run the software without having to trip the debugger each and every single time like this? I guess the next reverse engineering the registration code validation. So, okay, so they have the variable. So the question now is, what key can you use in order to make sure that this key will register true? So this is the next part of what they're talking about. Input box function. So they're looking for some input box function. Fine. And then they know that this must be 10 character length long. And then so this looks like they're then called string copy and string copy local. Okay, is it intern Delphi function that's not well documented? But we can surmise that an act like this substring function copies the first 5 registration. Okay, so it looks like they split the a string, and you can see here from the start. I guess this is like the local 10, and then this is the starting. This is the starting what's called index, and then this is the end index, or some shit like that. I'm guessing that this is just coming from experience, that he knows how this works. And then there's a call here. Again, this is an undocumented Delphi function, but Google leads us to a random Chinese forum post, which lets us know, hey, yeah, this works. Okay, cool. So this is just a little bit of reading, and then they just did some research. Cool. So how is a 64-bit represented here? All right. So it looks like they just split up the string, and then basically tried to make sure and validate it. So I think based on that, I think I understand what's going on here. And so I'm just going to kind of skip the rest of this. So it looks like this whole exploration and dive into reverse engineering is actually kind of cool. I think this is a pretty good basic instruction for anyone who's interested in how to reverse engineer software on a debugging level. So yeah, what's my take on the new... Actually, I want to make one little bit of information. This is actually quite similar to how you might decompile a binary. So in the Android world, I want to tie this to like the Android world. In the Android world, you generate a binary, an APK, that essentially contains a bunch of classes that will be read by the Dalvik JVM machine. And so what you can do is actually take all these .class files in that binary and then decompile them into actual assembly code. And this is essentially what the APK tool does. So if I go here, this tool will actually do exactly what the tools you've seen in here do. They'll generate these instructions. Except they'll also, this APK tool will also be able to tell you what the method names are as well. And it's pretty useful when you want to really compare